Hello and welcome to the Athletic NBA Show. It's Wednesday, and I'm Dave DeFore. So that means this is Nerder, she wrote. Joining me as they do each and every week, Seth Partnow, Mo DeKeel. What's up, guys?
What's up, Dave? How are you doing today?
I'm not bad. I think I'm better than your Wi-Fi is.
I don't know
You're
what
freezing
just
up on me a
happened.
little bit.
I don't know what just happened. It was rolling just fine.
Yeah. You guys, I want to talk about this Victor Wembanyama, Kevin Durant game, and I want to get right to it. They played last night. The Spurs were getting absolutely just destroyed. I mean, Phoenix, just everything working out for them. And I turned the game off, guys. Turned the game off. I was like, you know what? I'll hop on Synergy in the morning. I'll see, the rest of Wembanyama's possessions. Went ahead and switched over to the Great British Baking Show, which I've been, getting into lately.
Isn't it the Great British Bake Off?
Bake Off? I don't
Baking
know.
show.
I
You
just
keep
watch
saying
stuff.
baking show, and I feel like you need to understand it's
a Bake Off.
Bake Off. You have to understand the principles behind all of this.
So I just switched it over to that, and all of a sudden I got a text message. It was like, "Did you see that?" The worst. So went back, rewatched the fourth quarter of that game, and wow. Number one, I just want to start with the Wemby versus Kevin Durant thing, because the comp for Wemby is sort of Kevin Durant, right? This was incredible. And when Kevin Durant was being guarded by Victor Wembanyama, breaks him down off the dribble, goes into that Kevin Durant fadeaway, I wasn't sure that Wemby wasn't going to block it, Mo.
I mean, there's a great picture of it floating around the internet, and I think the beauty of it is, you just see his length, and I think it's just impressive. I mean, he blocked whose three was it? Grayson Allen's three earlier in the game. So it's like Kevin Durant as a guy that might actually be able to block his fadeaway now. Like, that's kind of the thing where I'm like, we might get that pretty soon.
Seth, the Spurs just kind of surprising so far. They really fight. They play hard, stay in the game. I'm not worried about the Suns, because the Suns obviously have had some injury stuff, and I think that they're going to be better than we've seen so far. How are you feeling about the Spurs and Wemby and, a week into the season?
I think we've seen kind of what the Spurs are going to be look interesting in parts, and then they are just giving, we've seen this, you give minutes to not NBA rotation caliber players, and those minutes kind of come back and bite you. And then sometimes, your guys come back in and you're able to take advantage of the other team missing every shot and you get back in the game. But I think that for people who are thinking that the Spurs are going to get, up into high 30s and get Victor into the defensive player of the year conversation, I don't know who would do that.
I have no idea who you're talking about. Not at all.
I think it's sort of, I think I'm recognizing it's easier for me to recognize the faults in other people. Obviously, it's the mistake I made with Detroit last year, where it's like, oh, they got some dudes, this could be interesting, and then it's like, oh, except they also have those dudes who play, and that sort of, so you see kind of the green shoots there, but obviously this year is not going to be the year for the Spurs yet, despite Wemby being, he hasn't shot the ball well, but I think the what everyone touted about him is on full display.
I think the other thing with the Spurs to kind of just take into account is, like, this is like just a season where they're trying to figure out who they are, what they have, and who fits. And I think that's kind of like, they know who they're building around. And now it's a matter of, like, what works. Is, Keldon Johnson a dude? Is Devin Vassell a dude for them? Is, Sohan, this point Sohan project kills me. Because I just think that's a bad idea. But, like, they need to kind of figure out, who works and whatnot.
Well, the point Sohan thing seems to me like, okay, Keldon Johnson has to play. Devin Vassell has to play. Victor Wembanyama has to play. And then you need a center because Victor Wembanyama is not playing the 5. So where else are you going to play Sohan? And I think like he is one of their 4 or 5 best players. It's a matter of trying to get him on the court with those other guys. I mean, so I at least I understand the idea. Hey, let's just put him out there. They'll figure it out. Maybe we get a little bit more motion-based offense. But Trey Jones has just been by far and away the best point guard for the Spurs. So like if you want to
he's kind of the only point guard for the Spurs.
That's
that's fair, right?
I get the idea of like, let's get Sohan out on the floor, so we have to make him a point guard. But like, this is a dude that's never played. Like, I know he played some of it last year, but this is a dude that never played the position really well enough. And it's, point guard's hard. Of all the positions in the NBA, being a point guard and feeding everybody. And I think what, experimenting with that with Sohan also hurts the other guys, because we've seen it. They have guys that can't get the ball into Wemby in the post. I mean, the amount of crying I'm going to do over post entry this season is going to be rough. But I think we have those issues, and I think we're watching everything. And I think this is the thing with the Spurs is they do need a legitimate point guard. And Trey Jones, I'd like to. I keep screaming it. Go after Malcolm Brogdon, or something. They need a steady hand at point guard that can really handle it, and that's how you get to potential play-in and whatever we want to talk about with them, and whatever that idiot said about Wemby making defensive player of the year.
I feel like Mo is going to be with Malcolm Brogdon this year, like I was with John Collins last year, trying to trade him to everyone.
Okay, but he just signed with Bucks. We know what's happening.
On our playback on Monday night, he tried to trade him to the Magic. So
no, he's going to get traded to the Lakers.
He fits perfectly in 2 places, Seth. I'm not trying to trade him everywhere. I'm trying to trade him to 2 places, and don't act like you didn't like the Orlando call.
I loved it.
Don't act like you didn't like it.
I watched the Magic last night, and I was like, wow, they really could use Malcolm because their guard play was so bad. Anyway,
so bad. I think that's the difference between them actually kind of making the play in and not is coming up with someone to play point guard. But I'm not talking about Orlando. Not yet. We will get to Orlando. We're not talking about Malcolm Brogdon getting traded either, because we had a bigger trade. Finally, James Harden's been traded to the Clippers. Our long national nightmare is actually only a few months. So this is our 3rd Harden trade that we've discussed since we started doing this podcast. Is this your favorite Harden trade, guys?
No. First of all, I'm sort of done with like I sort of, it was described and so like some, blockbuster trade. I was like, is it? Like, is he a blockbuster trade guy? Like, is this trade going to be more impactful on the title chase this year than Drew Holiday going to Boston? No, I don't think so. The second bit is I don't like it for the Clippers. Like, they didn't, in terms of who's on their team now, they didn't give up a ton in terms of currently useful players, but it's kind of, this is their move, and they're an AAU team now. And all the guys are from LA, so it plausibly could have been of a similar age from LA. And it's not, it's just I'm in general, like, give me the talent and see and figure it out. But both Phoenix and the Clippers basically have really extended that theory past the breaking point. It's like, what does he bring? I mean, not just what does he bring in the regular season, but in a playoffs, what problems do they have with their guys being healthy that James Harden fixes? Because if their guys aren't healthy, if Kawhi Leonard isn't healthy, it doesn't matter who else is on the team. So why are you making trades that account for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it. I think the other side of it too is just like, I think this Clipper team, it's early, but they're at their best when they're playing fast and playing a little more pace. And that's really not Harden's game. Maybe it will be. Who knows how he changes or whatnot. I have a hard time believing a guy who's played one way for 11 years or 12 years or however long he's been in the league fully changing. I had, listen, you guys remember it. Last year I was killing the Clippers for the Russ stuff. I was wrong. Russ has been great for them. And now I feel like you just neutered Russ by trading for Harden in this instance. I have a hard time seeing how this whole thing fits. where it works. Like, I never liked the idea of them trading for Harden, but I mean, like, I'm just like, God, it's a situation where like it's either going to be amazing or it's going to be a complete dumpster fire.
So I think the Russ is even I almost goes to my point in that he was great backstopping for PG and Kawhi when they are out. But where are you going if those guys are out? So why are you kind of maximizing a team like the, creating the best possible scenario in that eventuality? It's not good enough. Your team isn't good enough for without that for that to be really a consideration in how you're building your team. Like, okay, you need stuff to go well to win a championship. And for them, stuff going well is Kawhi and PG healthy in April, May, June. Now, I know we all are skeptical about that happening, but a trade that doesn't maximize that scenario, if you're all in on a title, what are you doing? It seems like, we lauded them for saying, oh, we care more about the regular season. And this is a trade that cares more about the regular season than it does about the playoffs.
Right.
Now they care too much. Now it's,
Yeah,
no,
right.
no, that's too much.
Well, so I guess here's the question. So this team, we've talked for years now at this point about the Clippers and their lack of health and how their depth has really kept them in it, right? Regular season for them has been about the 7th, 8th, 9th guy. Robert Covington giving them big minutes in February, March, and April to help get them into the playoffs so that Kawhi and PG can come and hopefully carry them through. Well, they just traded away so much of that depth that has gotten them there. And they got James Harden and PJ Tucker.
They're in the same situation. They're almost. I mean, the parallels between them and the Suns, and down to Mo said, sometimes it's going to look amazing, like kind of like last night. Sometimes the Suns look amazing, and then they can't make a jumper for a quarter, and they drop a game they shouldn't. And the Clippers these are both going to be teams where you have to judge on sort of the totality, not just the periods when jump shots are falling. But the similarity is even their role players are duplicative of what their star players already do. Like, okay, like Eric Gordon, probably a rotation guy, can help teams. Well, what does he add that Phoenix needs? What does Norm Powell add? Good player, good rotation player, can be on the floor in the playoffs. What does he add that to a core that has, Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, Russ Westbrook? Like, what is it? It's more of the same, just worse.
It actually, let me ask you guys this question then, because it leads me to this. This was their swing, right? This was the pieces they had to make a trade. Was this the right guy to go after? Like, would they have been better off waiting and seeing how the rest of the season plays out and see who does become available? Because there's going to be guys that are going to become available. I don't know if they would have necessarily the package. I mean, we also have to talk about it was a small package, although the pick that they gave up is going to be pretty valuable for Philly. Were they better off waiting, or is having Harden now at the start of the season worth it because it gives them an entire season, assuming everybody's healthy and playing, to figure out who the hell they are?
I mean, I to that point, if you're going to trade for Harden, getting him in as early as you can, I think is important. I mean, to be fair, you should have tried to get him in during training camp, when you could have maybe built up some chemistry and gotten him into shape ahead of the season. But now, what kind of condition is he going to be in? Is he going to be behind the 8 ball learning like what they do? Not that they do a lot.
Yeah. What does chemistry even look like with those 4 players? Like, I can't, like, that's the,
one of my questions that I've got here, guys, is what is the offense going to look like with these 4 players? Because it's 4 guys that typically kind of operate with the ball in their hands. I mean, Paul George, I think, out of those 4 is the most accomplished away from the ball, coming off screens and whatnot. But end of the game, we'll get to that. But what does it even look like at the beginning of the game? Is James Harden just the point guard, and now you're going to have Russ, I don't know, playing in the dunker? I don't know.
I mean, I think part of it too is like this. I think Russ is going to come off the bench. Like, I don't think they're going to start all 4.
I think he should. I wonder if he will.
Yeah, well, I think that's the stuff they'll have to figure out. But like, I think that's something that they're gonna have to really kind of figure out. But we've also seen it the second time around with the Russ and Harden. It didn't work then. Like I just don't understand the line of thinking from the Clippers that this is the guy I want. And also, this is the thing because Dave, you're right. Like they would have loved to have made this trade before training camp. The Clippers were been trying to get him since he made his trade demand in June. I just think like this sort of chase, I'm just like it never made sense to me. At no point did I have kind of clarity. And this is a guy who's quit on 3 teams now. Like let's just like this is part of his legacy. And now you have to sign him to a contract after this year that's going to be pretty ridiculous, I would imagine. I don't know, I don't think he's going to get a small number here. I just think it just puts you in such a weird position as a Clipper team now and in the future. And I know everybody's talking about the new arena or whatnot. If we're making decisions based on just trying to have to put butts in the seat for the new arena, you've already lost. Like I think that's kind of the problem.
You know what puts butts in seats? Having a good team.
All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the offense with these guys is going to look like. I mean, it's they do a lot of isolation typically. Although the first game of the season they did have 36 assists, so maybe a little bit of a commitment to moving the ball. But is it going to just be Harden, Zubac pick and roll, and everybody else space around them with a little bit of Kawhi cooking here and there, or is Russ going to run the offense and we're going to see Harden spot up a little bit more? What do you guys expect to see?
They're going to play in 4-4 time, and beat 1 is going to be Kawhi ISO. Beat 2 is going to be Harden pick and roll. Beat 3 is Paul George coming off a pin down. Beat 4 is Russ doing whatever, and it's going to be in that sort of rhythm all game long.
It's just hard though. Like that's a hard rhythm in all of that. Like, Harden hasn't shown that he wants to play off ball a lot. I mean, listen, the underreported stuff about this trade demand and everything is that Harden didn't want to play being Embiid's sidekick, and now he's going to be Kawhi's. Like, like Kawhi likes operating out of the elbow and ISOing from there and jab step and attacking and going from there. And it's like, it's how much is Harden going to actually really want to play in that? Is he just going to bring the ball up the court, give it to Kawhi in the elbow, and then cut to the weak side corner? Like, I doubt it. I think there's going to be, and you know what? He might do that at the start, but like, I don't see that as something that's going to be when we're in March, April, May, that he's going to keep doing it. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff there that like, I think Ty is a great coach. This has just become a very difficult coaching job.
I mean, it seemed like a hard coaching job the entire time he's been there, to be honest with you.
Well, it's because the dudes didn't play. Like, that's a whole different story. That's.
I mean, yeah, but also when they do play, they don't run anything. There's no offense to have a flow in, and maybe Harden could give them a little bit of that, and maybe it is just Harden pick and roll, and he's eating up minutes when Kawhi and Paul George aren't on the court. Like it's a lot more of maybe Harden and
just a different version of like a lot of guys standing and watching, though. It's just different guys standing in slightly different spaces.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like in everything that you're doing, like the real question too is how do you close games?
Next question I've got: what does it look like in crunch time? I mean,
they've got a terrible defensive backcourt.
That's the issue. James Harden guarding 4s. Is that what we're looking at?
Like, is there a, like, I don't know, the idea that of PJ Tucker, like defensive, master key or whatever. I think that's an idea that's 2 or 3 years past its sell by date. How does Terrence Mann fit in with this? Are you closing games with one of the other 4 perimeter guys? Like, assuming they're healthy, PG and Kawhi are the 2 best players there. They need to be on the court. Obviously, the best 2-way players. Okay, so do you play those 2 and Harden and Russ and Terrence Mann? That's tiny. But Terrence Mann probably, especially because there's only one ball and you're probably playing a lot of ISO on offense. Terrence Mann should probably be on the court, but who sits for him? Like,
they need Zoo on the floor. Like, that's the thing. Like, you said it yourself. That's a tiny lineup. And even if you replace Man with Tucker, same thing. Still a tiny lineup. And in the West, the West is big for the most part. You got to go through Denver, and I get it. We'll play 5 out and make Jokic have to defend and all that stuff. Man, they'll figure that out. Like, the Denver has a better chance figuring that how to deal with Jokic defending on the perimeter versus having to deal with the other way around, right? Where the teams have to defend Jokic. Like, I just think that's going to be an impossible task for them. And I get it too. I think teams are going to be like, hey, please run as much Harden Zubac pick and roll as you want. Like, we don't want Kawhi to get the ball. We don't want PG to get the ball. Like, please run as much offense through Harden as possible. And I think that's, a recipe for disaster in the long run, man. Like, I just don't like the trade for the Clippers. I never liked the idea of them getting Harden.
Yeah, and I think the defense is going to be rough, especially when he's out there. It is extremely early in the season, guys. But there are some teams that we expected to be pretty good, or at least decent, that have gotten off to some rough starts. And this is really just an excuse to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 0-4. Mo, they lost to the Wizards. They got beat by the Wizards. They didn't just lose to the Wizards. They got beat. That score it was not indicative of actually how bad Memphis was in that game. What is happening with the Grizzlies?
I mean, the obvious thing, right, is the Ja situation where we know that's being a massive one in that regard. But I think the stuff that's disappointing is, I mean, the Steven Adams injury, big one for them, obviously, and a massive blow to their front court, and no Brandon Clark, so they're really small, very thin up front. But also, it's been disappointing watching Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, he hasn't done, this was a situation where you're like, all right, you got to step up, and it hasn't really shown up yet. I think they do have a ton of injuries. They're better than an 0-4 team that they showed now, but man, it's scary. And you just look at their point differential, Dave, like, -8, I think it's where they're at. Like, I know early in the season that stuff might not matter, but it's like they're not, it doesn't feel like they're even in games at times.
Well, so this is a continuation of a trend. They struggle in the half court, Seth. Their half court offense is not very good. They rely a lot on offensive rebounding. No Steven Adams, I think, has hurt their offense more than no Ja Morant.
Nah, calm down. I see what you're saying, but calm down. Like, it's like, all right, well, yeah, you take a top, whatever you want to say about Ja, 15, 20 player in the league. Like, that's like we like Steven Adams. We're a pro Steven Adams podcast, but
we're pro offensive rebounds is really what it is. But
no, it's they just, I mean, basically you just look with all the with Ja out, they just all of a sudden their talent is so threadbare. And I think we touched on this. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago that they might be like the second most depressing situation in the league right now. Behind, ironically enough, I think we mentioned Washington is possibly the most depressing. So
I don't know. Jordan Poole seems to be having a great time. So
yeah, and everyone else is really enjoying the Jordan Poole experience. But no, I'll agree with Mo that being disappointed a little bit. Like, Desmond Bane has given them like kind of what you could have expected. Jaren Jackson is kind of, I think we may have seen what the top end of Jaren Jackson is. It's a little in that sort of that Pascal Siakam kind of range where, okay, he's a great second, third guy in your team. But if you ask him to be the best guy, it's too much.
Has anybody's stock dropped more in the last 3 months than Jaren Jackson? I mean, he's been playing NBA basketball again for a week. But it feels like since the World Cup, everyone's just kind of lower on Jaren Jackson. I mean, the foul thing, obviously, we know it's not necessarily fair.
I don't No, I think it's fair because I think the thing is we just haven't seen the growth you want, right? And I think Seth's saying, okay, so this is what happens is we're seeing him hit his ceiling, and I think that's the thing is, and I think we all, and maybe this is our fault as podcasters, media, and pundits, maybe we expected more from him than he's capable of giving us, and I think that's the thing. Like I find myself in that same trap with Evan Mobley. I know it's just his third season, but like watching his game against the Knicks yesterday, and I was incredibly frustrated just watching him not get physical. I mean, he had opportunities. He had opportunities to get into Mitchell Robinson's body and go up for a shot, and instead he pivots out of it and tries to find a pass. And it's like, man, certain point you got to go through them.
Well, that's a good pivot to the next team on my disappointment list is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're 1-3 through their first 4 games. They've dealt with some injury stuff here. Jared Allen obviously being out, Darius Garland been out, Donovan Mitchell not at 100%. I don't know if it's all injuries though. I mean, Mobley at center is not working. Like I don't know if he'll ever be ready. Maybe year 7, but right now, like it's just not there for him.
Yeah, part of it for me though too, and I'll give I'm there with you, Dave. Like on him, questions of him being a center, I feel like we're getting the answer pretty well right here now. But I also think part of it for them is the injuries, but I also think relatively sneaky tough schedule. The Knicks are good. I think the Pacers are good. The Thunder, those are their 3 losses. Like those are tough games. In that regard, their win against Brooklyn, like they should win that. And yeah, I think they're probably more of a 2-2 team than anything else. And I think they just kind of fallen short. So it's not to me like a drastic situation where I'm not worried about them yet, but I have my eyebrows raised here a little bit. But a lot of that centers around Mobley.
I mean, they're a thin team in that they're down 2 stars, like 2 guys who are all-star or thereabout level players. And they have, you have with getting Strus, they now have maybe a competent 3. Maybe more of a 2-3 than a 3, but still they have that competent 5-man starting unit, except now it's all of a sudden it's Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro. And you compare that, you just line up. It's like, all right, who are the 4th and 5th best guys on the floor for the Knicks are RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes versus Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade. And like, just from not to be reductive, but you just look at the talent on one side versus the other, and it's kind of a mismatch given who's available.
Do you have any Mobley concerns, or do you feel like this is just kind of more normal growing pain stuff that we're seeing?
I have some concerns. Some of these were expressed last year, and there was a little bit more of, well, of course he hasn't expanded his game because they just dropped Donovan Mitchell onto the middle of this team, and obviously that the extra opportunities you're hoping he gets all of a sudden have been. No, I'm not going to make a terrible pun about spider webs, but anyway, but yeah, I think it's a week into the season, so we don't want to go too crazy, but at the same time, they have those guys out, and he took 9 shots last night.
Right.
Like,
I mean, that's my point.
Yep.
That's the point, right? Like that's where it's like I wanted to see Mobley develop on the offensive end going into this season. And you listen, this is like early reaction, all that stuff, and we're a little bit out of control, but like seeing it now, I'm just like that's a problem. The situations and the clips I have where he's passing out of situations where he needs to go up and get fouled is surprising to me.
No free throws last night too.
Yeah, well, because you can't get free throws when you finally get at Mitchell Robinson. And listen, Mitchell Robinson's good. Your shot might get rejected. You might not get fouled. But like when you have that opportunity, you got to attack. And for you to just not even bother attacking and kicking it out, he handed Donovan Mitchell a grenade on one possession because he literally got it. He gave it to Mitchell at the top of the 3-point line with 3 seconds left. Like,
Yeah.
What's he? I mean, that's a challenge right there for him. Like, that's not fair. And I think that's the stuff. That's the disappointing stuff I've seen with early on with Mobley that I want to see get corrected if Cleveland is going to be a good team.
So he was 3 of 9 last night, especially with those two guys out. I'd rather see him be 3 of 18.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Xavier Tillman was 3 of 14 the other day. And Mobley
nobody needs to see that.
I mean, that's really the problem with Memphis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Xavier Tillman. And look, the last team on my list, guys, as we wind down here, the Miami Heat. They're 1-3. They lost some people this summer. They didn't add anybody. It seems like kind of similar issues to last year. They're bad in the half.
They were betrayed
again.
They were betrayed by another team's front office.
Yeah. It's just a rehash of last year, Mo. I mean,
so they're going to the finals. They're going to the finals. Let's just stop. They're going to they're going to the finals. That's it. It's going to be, they just need to sneak into that 10th seed. Like, they're going to the finals, Dave.
Have they figured this out? Like, I'm trying to see, like, last year I thought, oh, Miami is just not very good. And then they get to playoff time and a little bit of, I'm not going to call it luck because they had a great run, but they did have some help along the way. Giannis getting injured 11 minutes into that series certainly didn't do Milwaukee any favors. But it just seems like this is the same stuff we say about them every single year. They got to find some guys internally. I'm assuming they'll turn it around. They'll wind up with 44, 45 wins. But right now they look rough. This does not look like a team that was in the finals 4 months ago.
I mean, look, they lose a lot with Vincent, with Strus, and I think
Caleb Martin's
been out and hasn't really played. Like, I think I'm at the point, Dave, and this is probably what's unfair, of like, they could start out 0-10, and I'll be like, they'll find a way to eke out 40 wins and make the playoffs. Like, they are, Halloween just ended, but they are the NBA's Michael Myers. Like, you just can't kill him. Like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just that. Like, it's just every time you think they're dead, every time we're like, okay, this is it. Spo whips up some magic and they sneak in, and then when they're in the playoffs, they just go completely nuts.
Also, like, their 3 losses were at Boston, at Minnesota on a back-to-back, at Milwaukee. Okay, you would expect them to win 0.5 of those games just in general if you drop them in anywhere in the season. So let's not, like, only beating Detroit by 1 on opening night is almost the most worrisome result.
Hey, listen, only beating Detroit by 1 to keep you from being 0-4 is I don't care who they lost to, but it is, again, it's a carryover from last year. Same offense, same offensive issues. I mean, is it repeatable? Is last year repeatable for Miami? Can they stink, relatively to their standard during the regular season and then just flip a switch come playoff time again?
With how the East is, I feel like the East is weaker this year. I feel like they can. Is that a world you want to live in? No.
I feel like the very top of the East is stronger this year.
Right.
Though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying to get to the playoffs. Like, yeah. I don't know. I'm joking when I say book them. They're already going to the finals.
Right. Yeah.
But like the top of the East is stronger, but there's only really 2 teams I'm worried about in the East. Maybe 3 if Maxey continues to drop 30 a night. But like how worried, like, just can they beat out Atlanta? I mean, yeah, like I would bet on Miami over Atlanta. Like, when you're looking at a lot of these other teams in the East, it's like, okay, I just see them being able, they can replicate that at least and get to the playoffs. I don't know if they can get to I doubt they can get to the finals.
Miami is going to be the first team to take my plan and execute it and just make the play-in every single year and then make a run to the conference finals or to the finals, right? So tank into the play-in get a better draft pick, and then continue every single year to restock the cupboard. I think that's kind of what they're going with.
Is it really restocking if they end up back in the play-in every game every year?
I mean, if you wind up though going to the conference finals and to the
Yeah.
finals, that's pretty good. I mean, Jaime Jaquez is a pretty good player so far. So I think that they're doing okay. You guys got anything on your mind as we wrap up here?
No, I'm excited to. I'm University of Arizona State or Arizona State University Law School is doing a mock trade deadline exercise this weekend. That I'm headed out west to judge. So I'm excited for that. That'll be fun. Run into some fun folks there. Some NBA execs are also judging there, so it'll be fun to get the temperature of some people. In that environment.
And that's at Arizona State. I believe the temperature is hot.
Oh yeah,
pretty hot there. Mo, anything on your mind as we wrap up for the week?
Just excited for the season. I mean, it's been a fun start to the season. I think there are some really interesting things. I mean, the Wemby mania is kind of crazy. I saw a story on the Wall Street Journal. I haven't been able to read it yet, by Lindsay Adler, literally talking about people leaving the World Series to go watch Wemby. I mean, that's the mania we're at now. And you know what? Good for them. He delivered in that game. I know we talked about it already, but that game delivered on just maximum fun. So I think that's kind of the fun stuff, and I'm ready to see what the NBA has in store for us the rest of the week.
For me, guys, the mid-season tournament
starts
on Friday.
Right.
I'm extremely excited for some regular season games with a little bit more weight, although it's been competitive the first week, like you said, Mo. I'm curious to see how this goes. I mean, the courts came out this week. They look awful. I've seen the video of some of the courts. Does not look good. I worry about my eye strain from watching these games, but I am excited to see the games themselves because I do want to see if the players care a little more, if it's treated a little bit more like a playoff type of game by a lot of the players. And I want to see what team is going to surprise us, because I think a bad team is going to make a run in this midseason tournament. It's built for that. Like you mentioned, Mo, Miami Heat beat Detroit by 1 point, right? Now imagine if that game had a little bit of extra juice. Maybe Detroit wins that game.
Maybe in the tournament games, Detroit actually starts Jaden Ivey instead of Killian Hayes.
Maybe.
Don't ask too much there, Seth. Don't ask too much.
Oh, he sets a tone with his defense and the 32% shooting.
So anyway, that's for me what I'll be paying attention to the next few weeks, and I guess a little over a month until we get to the final. I'm really excited for this midseason tournament. I hope it's a good thing. I want it to be a good thing, kind of like the play-in. A lot of people I think we're poo-pooing the idea of a play-in, and that's turned into a wild success in my opinion. So I hope that this is another one.
I'm excited for the tourney.
Yeah, it should be good.
I'm excited. I want to see how the guys, but the most important thing is it's not if we're excited.
Right.
The players have to be excited. The teams have to be excited, because if they're excited, then we got it. Right. And then we're going to have the fun we need from that.
Yeah.
I'm the first couple of games will be interesting. The ones where are going to be the ones sort of towards the end of like pool play, where it's like, all right, it's we're in mid-December, but if we win this, we go on to the elimination rounds, and just seeing like if it's like, a battle for one spot, how if we actually do get a playoff like atmosphere, if we do that, then it's like, all right, no, we're here. We did this. This is good.
I think one thing that we may discuss after the final is if they've given it enough time to build up drama, as I think it is a kind of a short window to knock out the group play and a tourney, but maybe it's perfect. We don't know yet, but looking forward to that. And that starts on Friday. That's going to do it for this week's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Seth Partnow and Mo Dakhil, I'm Dave DeFore, and this has been Nerder, She Wrote, on the Athletic NBA Show.